Alright guys, so my bad. It's been a while and I haven't made a video. Just been busy with work and life stuff and everything just gets repetitive, but I finally have some time, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a video. But today I'm gonna show you guys how I do my marquee letters. They're one of the things I sell the most. I do them with LEDs and I also do them with light bulbs, and today I gotta build a 6 with a light bulb, so that's what I'm gonna show y'all. So I get the font, and well, I already have it on my computer because I build them all the time, but I use my CNC to cut them out. And you don't necessarily need a CNC. You can always print them out and cut them out, or use a projector to project it on the wood the size you want it and then cut it down. But I do have a CNC, so I just send the file to that, hit cut. So right now I'm gonna send you to that, and then we'll get back to starting to build it. Alright guys, so the 6 is done being cut. This is the CNC I use. It's the Maker Made. This is the Maslow, the first edition. I use it a lot for all my letters and to cut out pretty much stuff like this, whether it's this. It cuts out SVG files pretty good. It doesn't do too much detail carving. For that I have my, up there's a Shapeoko. But yeah, so this is done cutting. Right now, before I take this out, it's time for me to cut out a bunch of strips, and I tend to do them 6 inches wide. So I think with this piece it should be enough for that, but I always use like random scraps and stuff I have to cut down to size. And that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this, then cut that, then grab the 6 and set it on the workbench and pretty much show y'all what else I do. So give me a second. Alright, so I cut it out. Apparently the Z-axis was messed up on my CNC, so I had to trim it all out with the multi-tool. But after I cut them out, like the CNC cuts out with the router bit, router bits are round. I usually end up using the multi-tool to fix the corners so that they're squared. And this one only has 2. So everybody makes these. It's pretty much the same thing, but everybody uses different fonts. The font I use, the reason I like it is because all of these cuts are 45. So while I'm building this, it's only going to be 90s and 45s, and that's it. It's going to be straight, and then those are 45. And what I tend to do is I'll do the long sides first, you know what I mean? And then after most of that's done, I'll go ahead and start doing the 45s, which is the corners. And I always do the perimeter, and then I'll do the inside. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna clean it up with the sandpaper a little bit. I'm gonna sand out whatever's left. I'm actually gonna ask, I don't know. So I'm using, I think they're up and down spiral bits from Whiteside, but they're starting to chew up the front. And this bit isn't that old, so I don't understand why it's doing it. I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the bit the next time I'm doing another cut, but I don't know why it's starting to have tear out. It's not everywhere, It's just on certain, I guess it's in the grain pattern. It's only here, there, here, here, here it's not, there it's not, there it's not. So I don't know, I'm gonna send it out to kind of clean everything up, and then we'll go from there. All right, now that it's sanded, I use these MDF blocks. It's 2 half-inch pieces, so it's 1 inch, and I raise the letter 1 inch all the way around, and that way well, I figured out that that's the best way for me to do it. I don't know, other people put them flat against the ground and then do it, but with the piece being 1 inch forward or higher, it helps with the weight. So I don't really have the problem with my letters falling or tipping over, mainly because of that. Like if I would have just put the letter flat down and done the wraparound flush with the back end, it would be back heavy, so it would want to lean back. And then the other thing too is the wires I use, so I just make a flush with the front, and then the back has the wire and everything. And I felt like when I do the inch up, it protects the wire and the light, so you're not having to worry about them pretty much pulling out. If you're not careful with it, it will happen. So I always tell my customers to be careful with it. But a lot of my customers, when stuff breaks, they'll normally call me and it'll come back and I'll fix it for them. And either they'll buy me lunch or I'll do it for free. It doesn't really matter to me too much. I always have extra pieces. So yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and lift this all 1 inch up, and then we'll go from there. Sanded, it's picked up 1 inch, as you can see, all the way around. I have my strips. I need to find my air gun, which it's right there. So all I use is pretty much a pencil and my air gun with what is it? It's 18 gauge with 1.25" brads and Type Bond 2 glue. So you can use 1 inch nails, but I tend to use 1.25 because I think they're easier to find. A lot of times I can't find some. One thing I recommend is this right here. I did a boom arm with vacuum, power, and air, and it comes in so much handy because it's not something that's getting snagged on the table. It's up high. It does get on my nerves a couple times, but for the most part, it's pretty cool. When you don't need it, you can just swing it out the way. Like one day that I'm cleaning or something, or I'm flipping sheets of plywood up here, I don't need to do that. I can just push that out the way. And then I have the vacuum connection here with the dust collector here. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start showing you how I wrap this. And I'm not gonna show you how to do the whole thing, because after I do a couple pieces, you're pretty much, it's gonna be the same thing all the way around. So one thing I do is I will grab a full piece. So like I said, I cut them 6 inches wide, and then this is just a cutoff I had. So what I do is I'll line it up here, and then line it up on this side, and then cut it on the miter saw. So once it's cut, I'll line it up at the bottom, pretty much where it's gonna go, and I'll mark a line, and I'll flip it over and mark another line. And this way I know where to shoot my nails in, which is gonna be under this line, and I know where to put my glue at. which is under this line, and that way it's not such a mess, and I'll make sure the nails go straight in. It's a little more time consuming than if this was flat down and shot in there, but this is the way I found a way to do it, and I think this has the most consistent way for me to not be shooting up nails and to make sure everything has glue. I don't even know where my glue's at, but I'm gonna find it. And then after that, I pretty much wipe this with my finger, and I'll keep going. So like I said, I always do pretty much the flat pieces first. That way I don't have to move the saw so much. So in this case, I'll do this one, just whatever I can reach. I don't want to be overextending or doing anything like that. And then after that, I'll come back and I'll do the 45s, which is this one, that one, and 2 corners up there. So I guess I'm gonna put a time lapse and kind of see go through it. Hopefully it doesn't die, but we'll see. Alright y'all, so I'm done with all the straight pieces. Now you're fine. I got it. Yeah. So I'm done with all the straight pieces. All I have is 45s left to do. And what I end up doing is my miter saw, I'll get it, drop it to 45, and then I'll start cutting all the pieces for here, here, here. I'll start with the big ones and then cut all the little ones. And then after that, after that I flip it over and I mark where I'm gonna do my holes for the light bulbs, and then I'll cut those out or drill those out, and then after that I caulk it and get it ready for paint. Alright, so I'm doing the 45 parts. They end up having a little bit of overhang because this half inch, when you cut it, it ends up being wider. But this I just trim off with the multi-tool. I used to use MDF, and MDF cuts real clean and stuff like that. This is a little bit messier, so I have to sand it afterwards. But I think right now with the price of MDF, the last time I bought a sheet, it was almost $60, and I was like, well, I might as well make them out of plywood and make them lighter and last a little longer. But the one thing I did want to say is, when you're doing these 45s, my main tip is even if you cut this a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, but try to keep the distance that's at the bottom all the way to the top, and that way you know that this piece is straight or crooked. You know what I mean? Like if I was to have it here and then this side end up back here, well, this piece would be crooked. So my main thing is, like, down here, whatever it is down here, follow it up, which is the same thing here. Like this cut was a little bit short, but because they're wider, still fit. So I had to follow this joint that's right here all the way up. Same thing here. And you want to do that for all your pieces that are 45, because you can always cut this and fill them or whatever it is. but you want them to look straight, like all the pieces sitting up. So we'll go ahead and sit you back down and finish that part up, and then we'll get to doing the rest of it. All right, so I went ahead and did all the 45s. Everything's cut. I don't know if you can tell, but I got a friend here helping me, and we're just hanging out. We're drinking beer. He went ahead and cut all the 45s off, all the overhang. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand it down, flip it around, and then I'm gonna mark where the holes go. One small tool I recommend, guys, and bought it at Rockler, but is this little thing. Like one side is a punch and the other side is flat, and what you do is when you have like these small nails that are sticking out a bit, there's not that many, but what you end up doing is you'll put it on there, pull it back and let it go, and it'll drive the nails in. It's meant for finishing nails and brad nails and stuff like that, and it works really good. And then like I said, the other one's a punch, so if you need to punch something before you drill it, or if you gotta do a center hole, you can always set it, and you don't need a hammer. You just need this little thing. Just pretty much pull it and let it go. But yeah, so so I'm gonna go ahead and sand it down, all of these, and then flip it and do the show you how I do show you how I do the lights. All right, sorry it's late. All right, so what I do to make it a little bit easier is I'll get a piece of wood and I'll cut it down the middle, whatever the center is on the marks. So let me see where I can put you. That's you there. And pretty much what I'll do is I'll run the block and a pencil and scribe the whole thing, and same thing, go all the way around scribing it. So, and then I'll keep going around, but pretty much I'll end up putting lights in all the corners where everything touches. So right here there'll be lights. I think the distance between here is 12. So I'll do one at 8 and 4. So there's one every 4 inches along here. So I tried to even them out with the spaces that there is. So I'll keep going around, but it's pretty much from here to here, and then it's gonna open up a bit from here to here. But it doesn't look too bad, because if I put one there, it's gonna be too much. And the lights I use only come with 25 bulbs. So all the letters I make, they have to have either under 25, or I have to separate them for that. There is exceptions, like the N, the M, and the W. The N ends up having 26, and the N and the W the M and the W end up having like 30. But I always have leftover strips, so I always just add them on, and then I always add them on. whenever I'm doing those. But yeah, so pretty much like I said, go all the way around. Whoops. See, this is why I chose to get a GoPro instead of a camera. I'm always worried about breaking it. At least I know this, if I drop it a couple times, it should be okay. It shouldn't die immediately. And then come over here and just connect it. But yeah, so over there was 4. So all of these should be the same. So over here should be 12. So I'm gonna do 4 and 8. Same thing here. Hold on. So this one is being at 11, no, 10 and a half. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come down a little bit, like make whatever's even, and put it at 5. And then keep going. So right here under it, I think it's 15. Good. Thank God it's a GoPro, not a camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish marking them, and then I'm gonna go and show you what I do, and I'm gonna show you why I mark on the back. Go ahead, the camera's gonna die, but went ahead and marked them all. And the 2 things I do or I use is, should be the right one. It's already old, but I use a 7/8 bit, and I drill a pilot hole. And these seem to be the quickest to drill all out of the holes, but they have really bad blowout. So what I do is with the smaller drill bit, I'll do all the pilot holes, and I'll flip it back around, and from the top I'll go ahead and use this one. It's a 7/8. The lights I use and the connectors are 3/4. They're a little bit bigger than 3/4, and whenever I use a 3/4 bit, I would have to either try to eat it up, or I would have to eat it up, or the pieces wouldn't fit. They'd be just a little bit too small. And instead of wasting time trying to make them bigger when I'm doing it, I just make the hole a size bigger. And while I make the holes bigger, and then I'll show you when I get to that point what I end up doing to help keep the lights in place while I'm at it. But I'm gonna go ahead and drill all these holes, and I need to change the battery on this thing. Yeah, so let me get to that. So I went ahead and drilled all the holes, which they're there. I sanded them down. Next step is caulking it all the way around, just to make sure you don't have no gaps or nothing like that, and that way it looks a little more finished. And so let me show you the reason why I did pilot holes. So with that tornado bit, it explodes out the back end, so that's why I drilled a hole from his side first, rolled it around, and then started drilling them down. That way this is on the back and not in the front. And this will get cleaned up too tomorrow when I put the lights on. But yeah, so if everything was measured right, if you can see all your lights line up, like these 4, those 4, those 2 are close, and then these that run down and these that run down are the same. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you just want your numbers to look right. There's a couple different fonts that everybody uses. And some of them make the letters real skinny, some of them make the numbers real fat. This is a font I use, and I like it. And I think if I get like say 100 likes on this video, I'll tell y'all what font it is. That way y'all can go ahead and get started on it. But yeah, so I'm gonna get this ready for paint, and then I'm gonna get the paint area ready for paint. All right, yeah. So I already caulked it. It's done. I use rapid drying caulk, and I actually spray my stuff. I do have rollers and I have a smaller spray gun, but I end up using, I have a spray rig because I do so many of them sometimes. And the way I paint in my shop, where my CNC is, I have a tarp that's rolled up, so I pretty much just get it off. Let's see if I can do this one hand. There it goes. I get it out here and I'll roll it down and drop it, and that just keeps the CNC from getting paint. And I also paint on top of a bucket so that it's a little bit elevated and I don't have to crouch down as much. And I'll turn the big fan down a little bit so it's not blowing all the paint outside. But yeah, let me go ahead and do that now. So my fan's mounted to the ceiling, and I have this small, I guess like voltage meter type of thing, or voltage regulator. It turns the power down so the fan's not on as loud. And now I'll go ahead and push that back and put the 6 on it and start spraying. So I also pick up the CNC sometimes, but right now it's not too necessary. We cleaned the shop earlier, so I got rid of all the mess that was there. It's still a big mess, but it's not as bad. So now let me grab this and set this here. And lately I've been using the Storm Coat from Lowe's. But yeah, so I pretty much, I already checked it before I got the camera out and made sure it was gonna spray and everything's working right. I hate the hoses on these things, but I guess they're necessary. But yeah. So as what's his name? Is John whatever John Malecki says, let us spray. So yeah. Oh, let me fix that. Alright, so I went ahead and painted it. I paint with the sprayer, so it's kind of easy. Do all the sides. The only thing that's left is the bottom. Sometimes I spray it, sometimes I don't, because whenever you spray the bottom, like this is actually being used tomorrow, and I don't know why, but some of the paints, I guess they take a little bit longer to dry and they get sticky. And I haven't had that issue with this paint. That's why I switched over to it. But there's times where I would sit them down and they would get stuck to the ground. That's why I elevate them and keep them off the floor. But yeah, so I went ahead and sprayed this. Probably gonna wait about an hour or so, and then I'm gonna respray it to make sure I got it everywhere, and then it'll go inside my office and we'll put the lights on. Well, I'll probably do it in the shop tomorrow. But yeah, so I don't even know what time it is right now. It's probably like, oh, I got my phone in my pocket. It's 12:07. Just gonna wait a little while and then retouch it up, and then tomorrow morning I'll be here to put the lights in. Not shit. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry and touch it up again, and then tomorrow morning I just gotta put the lights in, which it doesn't take too long. I guess I can show you all the lights right now. So I use, they're like G40 outdoor string lights from Amazon, and so this is the box they come in, and that's what they look like. So what I do is, the only thing that kind of sucks about them is they come with the light bulbs installed, so you have to take off the light bulbs one by one, and then for you to have this bare. But lately my nephew, I've been picking up from school, so when I pick him up, I'll bring him here and I'll buy him lunch, and I'll give him 20 bucks and he'll pay all the lights I have. But yeah, so I'm gonna check back in the morning to finish that up and see how then. Good morning, guys. It's the next day. It's I don't know, probably like around 10, something like that. I ended up leaving here like at 2 after making sure everything was painted right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get that set up over here so that I can do the lights. Alright, so it's here. Okay, so like I had said yesterday, these lights are a little bit bigger than 3/4, but they're smaller than these holes. So what I do is I wait for my heat gun to heat up and I add a dab of glue. I add a dab of glue to each hole, and by the time I get to the top, the bottom's pretty much dry. I just plugged this in so it's not hot enough, so I'm gonna wait for it to heat up, and whenever it heats up, I'll show you what I do to hold the lights on. Yeah, so alright, so I have my monster and the heat gun heated up, so I'm gonna go ahead and show ya. So what I do is I add a dab on each hole, and what this ends up doing is it helps hold the light in place. Meanwhile, it helps hold the socket in place until I get to glue the whole thing down. So pretty much what I normally do is after I do this, I will start undoing the lights and light bulbs, and yeah, I'll start undoing them, and pretty much by the time I'm done doing that, it ends up cooling down, but they're already done, so I just have to wait a little bit. But I pretty much just set each light in and each socket in, and with that little bit of dab, it normally ends up holding it up. It's still not dry, but it'll end up holding it up about there, and then I end up adding glue around it. See, it came off, so I gotta add a little bit more and then let it cool down so that it doesn't come off. Yeah, so I guess let me wait for this to dry and set this up. Alright, so I already glued all of them down in place. The one thing I did do, one thing I always do is I cut the end off and I add heat shrink. So now that that's done, everything's been glued down. Now I plug it in, rotate it, and every once in a while I'll get like over drips, but this exterior paint keeps it from bonding as much. So as you can see, I gotta just pull off the extra little bit of glue on it. And then I do plug it in while I put on the light bulbs. And the main reason for that is I want to make sure that everything works. Yeah, I want to make sure all the lights are on before it leaves the shop, you know. So that's one thing. This customer already has a couple letters or numbers from me, so it's all right. But usually once I'm done, I will take a picture and send it to them and be like, hey, your letter's ready, or your number's ready, or whatever the case is. Yeah, faster. But there goes that. Yeah. All right, so I'm done now. I'm gonna go ahead and write the customer. That's it, with all the light bulbs in. The shape might change, but the letters and numbers are all the same. Yeah, I need to go ahead and let this customer know that it's ready, because she actually needed it for a party today. That's what they look like. And like I mentioned the other day, the reason I leave that 1-inch lip is to help protect all the sockets. On the MDF, I used to staple it, but this plywood's a little bit harder, so I don't. But I haven't had an issue too much with the wires getting snagged. I've had a couple, but like I said, the customers end up bringing them back, and I end up repairing them for them. So yeah. Well, I hope this was helpful, and I hope it gives you an idea just to figure out how it's done. If I can get probably like 100 likes on this on this video, I will tell y'all what font I use for my letters. So I'm gonna go ahead and text that customer, and I gotta get started on some other stuff, on some other props and stuff like that. Probably, I don't know, but yeah. But hope y'all find it entertaining, and I'll see y'all next time.